Was the main developer of this Hypogeum project. My main area of expertise circle around the areas of programming and game development.
I joined this project in order to take care of the oral dimension of the experience. Initially, we had only a drone sound effect, and we wanted to make the audio experience as immersive, as close to the environment as possible.
I was brought in a particular moment when most of the elements that needed to be incorporated into this project were finalized. Jeremy, one of my colleagues, had already created let's call it the set in a way. It was this three-dimensional, it was this interior of the Hypogeum. It had been created through scans given by Heritage Malta, which had in turn been made in such a way where there were no empty gaps, there were no empty areas, and the texturing had been introduced, and it had been made into what you see in the final production today.
The project was primarily designed in order to increase the accessibility with visitors. The idea behind it was so that more people would be able to visit this site, which is very, very temperamental and very, very fragile as an environment. But in a virtual way.
So we went on site, we did a couple of recordings. We recorded some male bass voice chanting to mimic what we can imagine happened at the time. In fact, these are the sounds that you can hear throughout the experience when there's a chanting going on. And also, we wanted to capture the acoustics of the place in order to apply them to the sound effects.
With regards to the sound effects, we did some recordings in the actual Hypogeum using equipment which a binaural mic is called, which captures sound as a human being would hear sound. So basically, when the same recorded sounds were placed in the virtual experience, they would be heard in a three-dimensional way.
This allowed us to capture and extract the reverberations of the cave complex, and then could apply these reverberations to any sounds we wanted to put into the experience.
The project started off with a laser scanned 3D model of the Hypogeum itself, which was given to us by Heritage Malta. Now, this was captured using laser scanning technology, which basically takes a point in 3D space every 3 millimeter, where every point is basically 3 millimeters apart from each and every other point, which means that you've got a very high detailed mesh. This was in turn simplified by Heritage Malta themselves, or the contractors that Heritage Malta employed at the time. And this 3D model was then brought into the game engine Unity, which is where my work started essentially. Once that was done, I had to play around with navigation. Since the original idea was to actually create a virtual reality experience, one actually had to come up with a way of interacting or creating an interaction space which was A, easy to use, and B, quite intuitive, so that one could actually navigate the virtual environment.
With regards to other effects, we I started thinking, okay, what other effects can be incorporated to give more realism, and not just that. When one works in virtual reality, one has to think about lots of elements which traditional directors, traditional filmmakers do not usually think about, which is what is happening all around you, not simply within the frame of the camera, and also how to lead the gaze, it's called, of the viewer. That is, so where is the viewer going to look next? In traditional film, that is quite easy in a way that it's not easy at all. There's a whole science behind it, but it's easy because the director has created a frame and the viewer has only access to that particular frame. There is a boundary, but when it comes to 360 film, it's a different concept. Why? Because I can look anywhere as a viewer, I can look up, down, all around me. So if I want, as someone who is creating the story, who's evolving the script into a story in this vast area, vast virtual space, the set, one might call it in traditional terms, then I can look anywhere. So I can look wherever I want to, and if I'm the director, then the director needs to pull that case towards where he or she wants the viewer to look.
The storytelling aspect of the experience was also an area where I contributed by helping plan out the route being taken to the complex in order to give both narrative flow and also the importance to the respective story parts of the complex as necessary.
What we realized is that when we plugged in the dates of the solstices and the equinoxes, which are basically the extremes as to where the sun is at any given point in time in the sky, it resulted that the sun never actually does physically travel all the way through into the Holy of Holies as was previously hypothesized. However, more work can actually be done. We basically said that no direct sunlight actually penetrated into the Holy of Holies, but that doesn't negate the possibility of having indirect sunlight, so light bounces. But that is something that is currently being worked upon in various other iterations of the Hypogeum project.
It was a brilliant experience, brilliant teamwork. There wasn't a moment where I was working alone, except in the final stages where I was editing everything together, which obviously is a time-consuming experience. There's a lot of cutting, there's a lot of editing, there's a lot of moving around, of creating time frames within time frames. But it's an incredibly interesting experience which brought together everything that I know and everything that we teach over here at St. Martin's. At the end of the day, it is an experience which one has taught me, and amazingly enough, it's something which will urge me to keep on teaching what I have learned to my students. But that is the ultimate aim of it all, but also to bring out into the light this beautiful historical piece of Maltese history and show it to as many people as we possibly can.
One cherished memory of this project was the teamwork involved, where me, myself, Pete and Joe worked together to work out the routes, work out where the pauses had to be done, where the lighting was to be made. I was narrating, so Joe could take timings needed, Pete could plan where the camera paused until the narration ended, for example. So I think that was a cherished memory, and the experience itself, I think, shows the passion that we have put in this.